All right, welcome to episode 36 of the War Room. Brian, thanks for joining us.
Always glad to be here.
There's a lot to talk about. We were debating on whether we should get on tonight, and it was like, man, we're in full Derby mode. It's there's a lot going on across the Derby community, from Spring X last weekend to the Summit, to shows coming up, to King of Ohio coming up. I know, kind of feels like maybe Demo has maybe dominated the headlines and overshadowed some things, but there's a lot of other shows going on, a lot of big events, and just a lot of big things happening.
Yeah. There's been a lot. Derby season is in full swing now. It seems like a lot of great shows that have already happened this year so far. A lot of them coming up here in the near future. We've been kind of focused on Demo so much that we haven't gotten a chance to really talk about these other shows and events. You and I were at the Summit this past weekend. A lot of good stuff to talk about there. So, and like you said, we got King of Ohio coming up. Some pretty cool stuff to put out here in the near future with that. So we kind of wanted to switch gears here a little bit and talk about Demolition Derby in general. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, let's recap the weekend, because the weekend was a big weekend, and in three different places really. And it's kind of unfortunate that we don't get out way west, because I'm pretty sure they had a big team show out there. It's kind of crazy that noise or that entertainment doesn't make its way all the way this way. But there was a big team show out there. I didn't really get a chance to see anything on it, so we won't touch too much on it. But I did tune into to Spring X, and there were some pretty appealing matchups there. And then, like you mentioned, we attended the Summit, up in Northern Ohio. So, what's your thoughts, man? Let's start with the Summit, and then we'll get into Spring X.
The Summit was just a lot of big names. A lot of big names from the general, I guess, Ohio, New York, Pennsylvania kind of area. I'm sure I'm going to miss names, so I'm not going to even mention them. But a lot of really talented builders, drivers showed up, a lot of classes. Bill Merritt and his crew, Rich Merritt with Fair Derby, they put on an excellent show. I think one of the things that you and I noticed right off the bat was how good that track was, man. Like, what do you think about that track that they put down?
Best track I've ever seen.
Yeah,
best built. When I say best track I've ever seen, I'm talking best built, best anything. This is the best track I've ever seen.
Yeah, and I think you heard a lot of guys singing the praises, the drivers singing the praises of the track. The action certainly reflected how good the track was. No track issues whatsoever. Usually when you get those indoor shows like that, sometimes the track can kind of eat cars up a little bit, digging down into them, but that never happened once. Just a really good job by their crew of building that track. So
I don't even think you can get an outdoor track better than that track. When I say best track I've ever seen, is I literally personally ran on it, and it was just it was flawless. And I think a lot of times, Brian, like, people don't want to talk about the good and the bad. We'll talk about the bad too, of shows and stuff too, and people can talk about the bad of our shows too that we put on. But that's how people get better. But we want to talk about you got to give props where props are due, man. And that track, unbelievable.
Yeah, there was it created a lot of really consistently good action. And that's what you want to see at a Derby. The drivers don't need to be worrying about the quality of the track or beating the track so much. And none of the drivers there, and like you said, you were out there on it and competed on it. That was probably never a thought that crossed your mind when you were out there driving around. So,
no, there was a lot of thoughts that crossed my mind when I was out there, but the track beating me was not one. Maybe everyone else beating me to death was one. Maybe the next time I turn around, if there was 2 or 3 people coming my way, maybe that was something that crossed my mind. I would say out of your element would be what I would describe my experience.
Well, let's talk about it. Tell the people what you did this weekend and how different that was what you're used to.
Well, let's finish the show first. Let's go over the show, and then we'll get into that.
All
I
right,
just
fair.
wanted to. There was a couple other things that I wanted to give those guys props up there for the
Yeah.
air quality. I want to talk about the air quality because that was a major issue, as you know, last year with that show. And I don't know exactly what they did. I know Bill kind of alluded to some things that they did,
They
and I know the
they
Fair Board invested some money, but
they put some new fans in. They put some new louvers on the other side. And it definitely made a difference for sure. They still had to stop the show a few different times just because there was, smoke and a couple cars caught on fire, and you're not going to beat that. So, but they did a great job getting ready for this year, making those improvements, and I'm sure they're going to critique themselves and see what they can do even more. But the air quality was definitely better this year for sure.
noticeably, right? Like it wasn't. There were times last year where it was
It
pretty
was
rough.
almost dangerous to be sitting in there,
Yeah,
and
and this year, I mean, these got whatever they did, it definitely improved. With closing the doors or creating the vacuum, adding the fans, it
yeah,
was noticeably better. And tip of the cap to them. Like you said, it stopped a couple times, but some of that you can't control. When somebody blows a head gasket or a radiator, two or three radiators blow. I mean, it's just it's going to happen. So
yeah.
I did want to give props there. Um, anything else that stood out to you on the show that was
Um,
good or bad?
I didn't really. I guess my focus wasn't really in being there. Wasn't really to look for something bad or anything like that. I just wanted to have a good time and watch some good action. I mean, I've been kind of, a lot of us kind of haven't maybe been to a derby yet this year, and when you're not around it, you're just kind of looking to get yourself back into that frame of mind. And I had a lot of great conversations with guys about different things. I got some good feedback, some jabs, whatever, but that's okay. But the heats were great. Those no protector team heats. Some of those heats were just off the wall, where nobody won the heat. Both teams kind of lost, but they, and that's not a critique on the teams, but they just went so hard at each other, and there was just battles, man. It was just incredible. It was incredible action.
So you think that's good, bad for the sport? What did like is it good that not everybody's even that made the feature is coming out to the feature because their cars are so messed up? Is that kind of luck of the draw? What's your thought on that?
Well, I think it's all in the eye of the beholder. I mean, if you ask them, I'm sure they wanted to make the track, but I think when it comes down to it, a lot of these guys are more interested in putting on a show for the crowd and the quality of the show. There's teams that didn't make it back that I certainly would have liked to seen out there. I think Mad Mike's one of those teams that had a great battle with Joe Linky and Fatty and their team. It was just a brawl, man. And then unfortunately, Mad Mike wasn't able to get his team back out there. But man, that was probably one of the heats of the night. I don't know if it was the heat of the night. It was certainly in the running for it, but I it didn't bother me, from a show perspective. But at the end of the day, we're here to put on entertainment regardless, and the fans certainly weren't disappointed, and that's the most important thing.
Yeah, and I think sometimes it feels like people can get so caught up in the heat to make the feature that there's not a performance in the heat. And I think what was showcased last weekend was there was certainly performances in the heat, and
Oh yeah,
that, you really had to earn your way to the feature. And then obviously you gotta earn the win in the feature. But those are two totally different derbies, and I think a lot of times, even if you just see the feature event, you kind of forget all of the hurdles or obstacles or competition that everyone had to beat to even get there. I think that
yeah,
sometimes we overlook that, but every single one of those teams went through a battle.
yeah.
Some guys made quick work, of their of some of their teams. Some of them did not, as you alluded. So
Right, right. And that feature was great. It was a great it was very consistent. The action was really consistent. Team Smash It, Team Carnage, and I think it was they were all black team. I can't remember the team name. I apologize to those guys if they're out there watching. I can't remember the team name, but had the Wiley car in it and the other two black cars. Man, what a battle in that feature. Team Carnage coming out on top. Team Smash It with Billy Estep and Matt Linky and Zach Estep. Man, just what a battle. No,
Yeah,
thank you for that, Trey. Sharon's Speed Shop. Yeah, they did a great job. Just great consistent.
Sharon. Okay, I was looking that up as we were going. Sharon Speed Shop. Okay.
Yeah, sorry to those guys. I remember the cars and I wasn't focused on the team name, but they put on a great show. All three of those teams did.
They were your pick. I'm not gonna.
They were my pick.
I see Matt commented on here. I just want to let everyone know that they were your pick to win the show. So
well, I was kind of back into that corner.
Hey, a pick is a pick, man. I mean, I believe
I didn't have first pick, but I didn't pick a bad team. I have no problem with my pick. And they performed. All three of those teams, all the teams in the feature performed. Mike Tosco's team and with Wes Ginn and Stevie Tracy, they did a great job too. And then, it was just a great feature. It was just an all around good feature.
And there was just a lot of good action, man. It felt like
you didn't know where to look. Like you're just like, it was great.
Yeah. And some of that's a testament to the track. Some of it, I think, being indoors, there's an element about being indoors in which you hear everything gets a little louder, everything gets a little more turned up in the car, and maybe people get a little more amped up, and that creates better action because you might be able to say this heat was not as good as the other, not that weekend. I mean,
I didn't feel let down by any heat, whether it was the big cars or even the compact cars. I'm not a compact guy myself, but I liked watching them too. They did a great job. All those teams did a great job. And it was just action all the way around. The trucks, I'm a truck guy. That didn't disappoint me at all. Those guys bring it, and they did again that night. The first night, the 6K class. Wow, just it never stopped.
No, it didn't. And the only thing that I would, I guess, if you want to give like some type of critique for the show, is it dragged on a little bit, just because and I get this because I'm on the other side of a promoter. You can only get cars in and out so quick. And when you go through in and out one entrance, the reality is there's not multiple entrances to get cars in and out. Anytime you're in an indoor facility, it just takes a little bit more time. So
you're limited by the infrastructure you have to work with. So, but they did great. They did great. So, I mean,
yeah, and that's really the only thing you can say. And if you leave a show and that's the only thing you can say is, hey man, it drug on just a little bit longer than it should have. Yeah, you're doing pretty good, especially in today's world. Everybody likes to critique everything.
But to that point though, like you leave some shows and you're saying, man, that really drug on. That's what you're focused on when you leave the show. That's kind of what the lasting impression is you have. Like, man, that feature took too long, or it was this or that. I didn't. Whether or not the show drug on wasn't even a thought in my mind when I left, or even now. It was all good to me. I mean, I thought it was a great show.
That was the taste that was left in your mouth. It was just, hey, good show. Right.
Yeah. Great show. High five. That's what they should all be like. That's what I think they should all be like. That kind of leave that feeling, from a Derby guy. I can't imagine what the other people would have thought out in the stands watching it. So,
well, I'm curious to hear people's comments here on this. Compact cars versus full-size cars. What are the differences? And what do you guys feel that the differences are? Because I ran 2 compact cars in my life. One was in a mud fest in Urbana, Ohio. So I didn't really get the speed. And then I ran last weekend. So Dan, our head combat inspector, built me a car, and we showed up there. And we'll get into that. There's a big difference and compacts and in big cars. Okay. And we're going to start with the speed. It's so quick. It is unbelievably quick. It totally was, I mean, it threw me out of my element. For sure. Like I'm used to going out there and, I mean, I can drive a car a little bit, and uh, it was just so quick out there, it just threw you right out of your element. And I'm curious. We talked about this, Brian, the difference
Mhm.
between compacts and full size cars, and it doesn't seem to me that like it translates. For some reason, it doesn't feel like really good compact guys have crossed over to the full size guys and been really good. And it doesn't feel like really good full size guys have ever crossed over to the compact side and been really, really good. I mean, and I'll lean on kind of the guys tuning in to watch this. What uh, what do you guys think? Is there anybody out there that we're missing that's won or performed at the highest level and won the biggest shows? In both the compact side
In both,
and the
both.
yeah, in both.
Well, I think one of the things too with compacts, at least what from us talking, what I notice when I go to some shows, it's like the spaces that these compacts can fit into. That when you're a big car driver or you're a truck guy or whatever, you kind of you learn how to use the track and the walls to your advantage to kind of protect steering or whatever you're trying to do, and you don't think a car can fit in there, but they seem to fit in there. Like, and they a big car or a truck, at least from my experience, the fast pace or the hard hit is more of a build up to it, whereas those little cars, they generate so much speed so quickly. They can do it in short spaces. It's just I don't know. Doesn't look like anything that I'd probably be any good at.
Yeah, and well, that's different out there. And then another thing is you get punished a lot easier, I think, in the mini cars. And the reason being is because there's literally no structure in those front tires. And you know, there's a couple names coming in
Yeah,
that
like
that are
Jordan and Ryan Rui.
yeah, that have had some success for sure. And those are names that we kind of brought up earlier that
Mhm.
that were on our radar already. But I guess the fact of the matter is there's not a lot, right? There's not a lot of people that have translated on both sides. Nick made a comment pretty much the
The whole
whole road,
Rutherford.
which is true. I mean, uh, that is very true. But I guess the point of what we were saying is there's not a lot of people that have translated it to both sides. And I'd like to pick Jordan's brain on that, or Ryan's brain on that and see what they think and see if maybe for me it was just so out of my element that it just seems so different that I'm kind of like starstruck, like and
Yeah,
in
I
a
mean,
daze yet.
yeah, I mean, I think like Jordan said, it's the front wheel drive part that has changed the compact so much. Getting a rear wheel drive compact is way cooler. Yeah, that seems more my interest. Rear wheel drive is kind of where what I'm more interested in. But I think if there's guys out there who have accomplished those things on both sides of the equation, there, both the big and the small cars, you kind of look at that individual sort of like like we talk about big name drivers and racers out there like Kyle Larson, who's been able to win at the highest levels in a multitude of different things. I mean, the dude wins in everything he gets in. So like, I'd really love to see a guy who can do that at the highest levels and all those things. And that's kind of like a driver that we really need to talk about more, or that kind of a skill set, I think.
Yeah, and it got me thinking like, okay, so usually in motorsports or just sports in general, as you climb up the speed of the game, right? They say that the game's just a little too fast. It hasn't slowed down for you yet. It was weird to me because obviously I ran the biggest big car shows, but I felt like that mini car heat was just so fast. And it was different than anything I experienced before, and that was weird because I've always like thought, with sports, Big cars, right, and big shows are widely considered probably the pinnacle of the sport, so to speak. And the fact that you experienced such a speed difference in the compacts was different. Now, I will tell you this: that was no ordinary compact show. That was not your county fair compact show at all. Those guys that were on that track are dudes. And
Yeah, they were.
Dan warned me of that. He said, "Hey, I just want to let you know that everybody that you're getting on the track with out here is really, really
Yeah,
good."
let's. What are some of those names you had? You had the Jensens. They're a pretty popular name around there. Zerker. That guy seems to win wherever he goes and whatever he's in. There's a lot of really good names on that track that you shared that track with, man, and they definitely brought it. They definitely brought it.
Yeah, those guys, and they brought it the whole time. That was another thing, is I wasn't sure how much of the car you could use or when you could use it. I don't even know if I actually got a chance to even think about that. But looking back on it, um, how much they use the ass ends of those cars up. Like, they're gone. There's nothing. They're not worried about tires. They're not worried about anything. You worry about so many different things in a big car than a little car. You just beat the ass end completely off those cars and drag it around. And if you
Yeah,
get flicked with a fingernail in the front of those cars, you're done. Um, the bumpers, another thing is like, if you're lining up shots and whatnot, you have to literally hit cars, tires at like an angle. And
yeah,
because some of the bumpers in the class that we were running are weak, so they'll give in the middle. So you want to hit when they're on the frame rails, but they're really skinny. So like, you could easily clip somebody or go by somebody that a normal big car you would get them with the corner of your bumper, but in these you wouldn't. That bumper was so
yeah.
short, it was in between the frame rails. You could literally hurt yourself. So there's a lot of different things to think about out there. But those guys
Josh
were good.
Josh K says, "Yeah, Wood, how you like that protest?" Josh, I can tell you right now, neither one of us. I don't know. I don't know what happened with anybody else, but neither one of us said anything about that. So I don't know what that is, but
Yeah,
had nothing to do with us.
I don't know why people, like, we had somebody come by me and say something. I don't know why did they associate us with that?
I don't. I don't. I wasn't even something I was thinking about. So, but hey, I mean, there's always got to be a little bit of drama, right? That's what keeps it interesting.
Yeah, I mean, you get on here and you give people credit and then they still want to complain.
Oh, we certainly did not, Josh. I can tell you that.
I mean, that's just made up BS. I mean, someone has to. Who do we protest to? Why don't you ask Bill or somebody? We don't. I'm not really into that. So
Never happened. So I don't know. Whatever. It's okay. Like, I mean, if that's what was being said on, just that never happened. But
I don't
it's
even
all good.
know.
Congratulations to Will. He did a great job. He ran hard. I thought he was an animal out there running around the way he did. So
I just wanted to get my notebook out.
yeah, we
Take some notes.
yeah yeah.
Honestly,
I
I
mean,
mean, he was impressive. Like,
he was. He never
and he
slowed
wasn't
down.
he wasn't the only one that was impressive. He ended up getting, I think, like third or something.
I
But
couldn't. I know Zerker won, but I don't know who the running. There's like second and third there. I think the other guy was Cameron Sleek, maybe, or something like that, was the second or third as well. I don't know who what happened there, but all three of those cars were, there was very some of the hits that were being made by some of those drivers were very intentional and very kind of calculated, and some were just, dude, I'm coming at you as hard as I can, and like it was really fun to watch.
yeah, it looks like
Yeah,
Sleep.
Sleek got second. Okay,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, they
Well,
all did great.
yeah, those guys are like, kind of staples at the top of any compact class. And
Mhm,
that's a thing, like, they reminded you real quick of why they're so good.
mhm.
But being on the track with them, they reminded you that there's levels to this game, and
Yeah,
they are at the highest level of the mini
they
cars.
certainly are, man. They
I'll tell
certainly
you
are.
that. So
Hey, you spend enough time building those things and running them, and it's just like big cars or any other class. You just get really good at your craft, and those guys deserve credit. So hopefully, this they can appreciate that. Hey, there's a newfound respect, and for those of you out there who are more inclined to the bigger cars and stuff like that, even me, trucks. There's just a lot I don't know about compacts, but I do have a newfound respect for them for sure, and the guys who drive them.
yeah, and I think part of the reason why we got in those compacts is it's kind of our job to, and as a promoter, I think, and in our roles that what we're doing to understand all these classes. And I think I definitely have a clear or a better understanding of what it's like out there, how good those guys really are, and what it's like to get your ass kicked on the track, because that on the full size class it doesn't really happen to me that much. But
Yeah.
in the compacts, yeah, that's sure that
Yeah.
definitely happened.
Yeah, I mean, you need to be humbled a little bit sometimes. I've got some wins, but I've also been, I've been the hammer and I've been the nail. I some of these derbies that I've gotten smoked at, I just laugh when I'm about to get hit. Like I just like this, you got me. Good job. Like sometimes you got to have that attitude about it because you're not going to win them all, and it's always
You
good to be a little humbled.
you can only, when that happens to you, man, you can only get out and smile. So I think it's
Yeah.
I think it's kind of funny that people are saying stuff. We didn't say anything. If we would have said something, we'd
Yeah.
have walked over to the car. I don't know why people have to do that stuff. It's really
I
easy.
can't speak
Just
for
ask
everybody,
questions.
but I know.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it didn't
just
come from
ask
us,
us.
so I don't. Yeah,
I think
I mean
some of
that's something else. That's a general problem on the internet, anyways. People assume things are being said or done, and I kind of say it in some of my replies to things. If you got a bad taste in your mouth about something, or you heard something from somebody, it doesn't take a lot of effort just to ask a question. And I have no reason to lie to anybody. There's nothing in it for me, so I'll tell you. But we could avoid a lot of that stuff. We just ask questions.
yeah, don't make assumptions. uh,
Facebook
what's
power.
yeah, what's that do? Um, like I said, somebody at the event came by and said something to us. I was just like, "What are you talking about?" Like,
Yeah, I was there when that happened. I was just like, dude, like we've been out here talking about how you were telling me how you almost died. That's what we were talking about.
yeah, that I thought I was going to die at one point. I didn't, like I said, I didn't know if there was 2 or 3 cars coming after me as soon as I looked around. Um, that's just how it felt. Um, but look, it was overall good show.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, the track was awesome.
10 out of 10. 10
Um,
out of 10.
there were some other comments on here. How do Likens? Look, we were like built to the rules. So our cars, it was a stock compact. It was pretty easy to inspect. So there's literally nothing done to these cars. So take a good
Right.
take a good look at them, and you know, um, that's how it went. So I don't really have anything to say about inspection. I don't.
I guess it would depend who you asked that question to, is of how they liked inspection. That opinion always changes based on who it happened to. But I didn't see anything that bothered me. Well, I'm just watching it. So
Yeah, we weren't in inspection, so that's another thing, is kind of like what we just experienced, is you don't really want to get into those conversations unless you've really experienced that.
yeah,
Uh,
right.
how can we really sit here and say anything about inspection? When we weren't sitting there, I guess in all the classes. I can tell you this: inspecting cars and being on an inspection team on the other side of things, you're definitely not going to catch everything. So to be held to that standard is kind of crazy. I didn't see necessarily anyone that had crazy overbuilt cars. That show's notorious for cars being pretty equal. I do
Mhm.
think that there was probably some build discrepancies, as far as the caliber of guys that we're building that are just probably
Mhm.
a little better than some of the teams. That's probably about as far as um, you know, as I think. You can't. You know this. You can and you got to trust the guys that are in inspection line looking at the cars, and
Yeah.
that's all you can do.
No, and I really, go down that can of worms and talk about rules and inspection is a horse that's been beat to death and shot twice. So I mean, I think everybody out there, you could sit here all night and talk about it, and it'd be the same conversation from a week ago or a week before that. So it's not even worth really going down that road.
There were teams that got loaded too, so
Hmm.
I don't know. I don't really want to get into that talk. I think that's probably somebody else's, maybe avenue to talk about. But I know they did load a couple teams for sure. So
Yeah, I mean, they seemed to stick to their guns. The inspection team and that. I mean, I don't know how the teams that got loaded felt. Hopefully they understood or whatever. But again, I can't speak for other people, so I'm not going to.
it seems like there wasn't like a lot of discontent, with the people that did get loaded. I think there wasn't a lot of backlash. So that seems
Yeah,
to probably say, yeah, you got me. I sometimes I get you, sometimes you get me. You got me.
yeah.
Uh, I don't want to spend.
Sometimes you earn it.
Yeah. So one of those things maybe. Like I said, if you're not in inspection line, there's no need to comment on exactly what's going on in there. It's just
Right.
not necessary. You have
Right.
no idea what's going on. So, um, with that said, that's what else did we say we were going to talk about?
Talk about Spring X a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, let's get into that. So Spring X seemed pretty wild from a distance. Again, we weren't there, so we can only comment a little bit on it. But I definitely stayed in tune. Uh, it sounded like it was a really good show, and as far as competition wise, and
Hmm.
it looked like it was online. It looked like it was a good show. So Spring X, for those of you that don't know, they tend to um, there's two different ways you can run a team show. You can run it 1v1 all the way down, or you can run it what we saw this weekend where you went around and then you're in a group feature. Is there, what do you think of the difference? I mean, do you have a preference?
I think to eliminate politics and for the pace of a show, I kind of prefer the 1v1 all the way down to the end. Um, but there's only so many ways to do that, time permitting and things like that. You only have so many days to put a show. There's a lot of then you have to add more rounds. There's more work. The cars have to be harder anyway. So there's just a lot that goes into that. But you know, it just depends on the mindset of the drivers that are on the track. I think at Summit, just for example, I don't know how many teams made the feature or were out there on the track. I would say maybe five or six. Maybe some of the guys in the comments can correct me there, but it seemed like a good number. There was plenty of space to move around. But when you get some of these team shows where the track seems to be just packed, it takes a lot longer for the pecking order and the politics and everything to kind of get figured out before guys start getting on with it. And that's kind of where you have those longer features. I don't know how long the Spring X feature was for the team show, but I don't know. If I had my choice, I would say 1v1 all the way down.
Well, you definitely get some unique outcomes, and I think in these scenarios, you get if you compare it to just other sports, right? And a turf field versus a grass field,
Mhm.
indoor climate versus an outdoor climate. You can compare it to motocross. I mean, if you guys pay attention to motocross AMA this year, it's been disastrous when every time they're outside. It's basically what they call like a mud race where it's
Mhm.
raining. and there's different skill sets involved, and there's different politics involved and whatnot. And you get to see who rises to the top in each one. And there was
Mhm.
out in Spring X, there seems to be always the same cream rising to the top, and there's probably reason to that, and that's Bob and his crew, right?
Mhm.
Always seem to rise to the top. Now, I guess we want to get into a little bit, talk a little bit about a controversial topic that maybe some people don't know and whatnot, but there were call outs out there in Spring X. Brian, you a fan of call outs?
No, not unless it's incentivized. I don't. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's not my thing. I don't know. Maybe other people feel differently, but I think that should be a mutual thing. And I don't think the team that turns it down looks any worse. If that's what people might say is, oh, you're afraid or whatever. I don't think that's the case at all. The goal is to win the show. So if that happens, I for that reason, I don't think it's necessary. But I don't know. I don't know. What do you think?
I think it's like a tenfold answer. There's a lot of variables, in that answer. I guess what we'll say is from the talks of it is it sounded like EPR called uh, uh, Bob's team out, Misco Crane, and
Hmm.
I think that everybody wants to see that matchup, EPR, against Bob's team and the defending champs. But it doesn't, like you said, it doesn't necessarily make any sense if you're really trying to go there and win the show and to put all that money into a car to accept a call out like that, knowing because if you think about it, Brad said did PJ snark? PJ wasn't the last car running, but he won. His team won. EPR won. It was the Godfather. It was Craig that got the job done for EPR. I think PJ, from what I remember, it being like PJ was like maybe third one running on, like third to last running on his team. I think he might have been the second one out on the team. And you just gonna have to rewatch that because there's such a war going on. Like, you just don't really know
Yeah.
when you're going to last, how long you're going to last. All you know is that you're in an absolute dogfight with these guys, and you got to use every ounce of your car. And I think anyone that knows PJ knows that he's going to use every single ounce of his car. So I think he was probably brought in to be one of the hammers, and he certainly lived up to that.
He succeeds. He always succeeds at doing that. So
Yeah. So, but getting back to that, on the call out stuff, how can you accept a call out? I guess it's way deeper. It's way deeper than that, just that call out, because you got 16 teams at Spring X, Brian. How many
mhm.
teams legit do you think can win the Derby? Like win it, like hands down. If we had betting odds in Vegas, is it half the field? Is it three-quarters of the field? Is
I
it
don't think so. I don't think it's that many. I think maybe four out of that. That's no disrespect. I'm not saying any one team, but that's usually how it kind of goes. You see the same usual suspects rise to the top.
Yeah, and then okay, let's say eight. Let's just say eight because we don't have the list in front of us. So let's say half the field can legit win the show.
Hmm.
And why is it? I guess we got to dig a little deeper. Why is it that only half the field can win the show? And at a big team show like what Spring X is, right? Spring X is notoriously a big team show. So um, I guess let's dig into that. So why is it that half the teams can win, and probably half of them, are definitely not favorites to win, or really have good odds to win? And the reason being, to me, is the organization in the sport, and kind of the structure and the hierarchy. I think a lot of times, whether it's any show, You just get different levels of competition,
Mhm.
and it's no more evident than me at Summit in a mini car. There's zero chance I had to win. And the reason why is because I'm just out of my element. There was just nothing that I could have done that day or gained the experience. I just didn't have the experience that these guys have. These guys are just much
Yeah.
better. So I think you see that at almost any show in the country. So
Yeah.
when you talk about the call out, what does it make any sense to accept a call out against somebody else that can win the show? No. Um, not really, right?
I don't think so. And you know, there's a lot of things that go into, how a team performs. It's, quality of build, it's driving style, but it's the team aspect of that's a whole nother skill set, is being able to work together as a team. And a lot of these teams that are really successful, at whatever team show you're going to talk about, they kind of can just like read each other's minds. You can see it. You can just see the way the cars move on the track. How they kind of work in tandem or function together. It's like a well-oiled machine. And some of these other teams that come in, maybe they're running with people they've never met before. Maybe they've only had a few team shows under their belt, and they're still kind of working out those or perfecting that style. But you have to do it to get good at it. The seat time, there's no replacement for seat time, right? So it's not to say that they'll never be successful. It's just, maybe they're just not there quite yet.
Yeah, and you know what, you brought up a really good point there is just the chemistry, right? That of what a successful team is. I would venture to say there's definitely not all 16 teams out there that have ran together in a team format. I bet you a lot of those guys are probably running a team atmosphere together for the first time. And you got to look at guys like, Bob's team, right? And Derby builds and see how well they perform together and the chemistry that those guys have on the track, and understand that you're probably behind the eight ball already,
Yeah.
going into the track, because they do have that chemistry. So that's another reason why it plays a factor in there's probably only 8 teams that can really win it. I think the call out thing, everyone wants to see it. I don't think it would anyone not pay to see EPR versus Misco Crane. I think it's pronounced Misco Crane, right? I'm pronouncing
I'm
that.
not sure.
Um, we'll just Bob's team. Um,
Yeah.
Everyone wants to see that, right? I mean, I want to see it. I'm paying.
Well, I think that's true on all levels, whether it's a team show or a singles event kind of show. There's a lot of just absolute dudes out there that people would love to see go up against each other, and, you know, calling out at a team show doesn't really make a lot of sense, but there's a time and a place for it, I think, and to be able to set something up like that up. And, I think people want that. It's really entertaining stuff to watch.
Yeah, and I wanted to. We talked about that, but that'll lead us into the next part of the conversation. Is King of Ohio 2024 here? You're going to get to see something like that. We're not ready to announce it yet. We're not, but it is set in place. Everything's agreed upon of what's happening. You're going to see some of the baddest of the bad run against each other, and for pure entertainment, we'll call it like headliners of the show, right?
Mhm.
There's the guys that have agreed to come in and be a headliner. And when you think about what a headliner is, I want people to think about in terms of a concert, and in terms of like Taylor Swift, okay, selling tickets to a concert. 98% of the tickets are sold because of Taylor Swift. All right, but there's always acts that lead up to Taylor Swift, and they're getting that experience. They're getting the exposure. Taylor Swift is sharing the stage and headlining, are giving these guys the stage and the exposure. That's essentially what we want to create in the Derby world, and we want the biggest names in the Derby world to come headline the event, and we've secured that, and we're ready. We're ready to just blow the top off this thing at the King, and I think what you're going to see there, who knows what it'll be. It could be a 5-round wrestling match. We always compare ourselves to the UFC. Could be a 5-round wrestling match. Could be a drop down, drag out fight. We don't know. But the
Right.
anticipation of one of those matchups happening, I think, is just a home run.
Yeah, I mean, these are matchups. This will be a matchup of some guys that I mean, I don't even know how to say it, but it's something you're going to want to see. I think people have been begging for it, something to this caliber, and hopefully it lives up to the hype that we think it's gonna provide.
I want to see if people get emotionally tied to it. I want to see if people will actually give their opinions on who is supposed to win, who's going to win, and then who's just going to get smoked out there.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see if we get some of that engagement, because there will be no hiding, come June 14th. That'll be Friday night in which that matchup is showcased. There'll be no hiding. There's going, there's going to be winners. At the King of Ohio, there's always winners and losers. Okay. But there's going to be winners and losers. And
for sure,
you guys are going to get to talk about it and be entertained, by it, and entertained by the lead up to it and exactly what's going to happen, who it is. I
don't believe you're scared, Kidman. That's a lie.
That's funny. Right there.
That man ain't scared of nothing.
He ain't scared of nothing. Kidman is a guy that understands the bigger picture, man. There's a bigger picture at play here, and you want to talk about a guy that gets the bigger picture? That guy right there.
He sure does.
He's a superstar of our sport, and he is leading the way in a lot of different avenues. For our sport as we progress into a professional motorsport. And, you just got to first on our end, appreciate everything that he does, all the time, effort that he puts into. But also the character of that guy is unreal.
Good dude. And I don't know him really well. I mean, I've met him a few times now, but he's a guy you can talk to and have a good conversation with. And that's all I need to know.
Competition brings out the best and worst in people. And I've never seen competition bring out the worst in Jason. He's had letdowns. He's got the, you're talking to a guy that won Blizzard Bash. Okay. This guy's no joke here. And
right.
Then he's definitely had letdowns just like anybody else, right? In a car. He never changes.
Nope.
He always puts his pants on the same way every day, just as everybody else. And just a straight stand-up guy.
Yeah, for sure. And the bigger picture is create competition. I mean, we talk about this a lot. I think, you see it a lot on Facebook posts. There's a lot of, the negativity and the, all those things that kind of seem to take over the conversation from time to time. But, what if we had a different line of conversation that talked about competition, that talked about, how good it is to see, those caliber of drivers that are currently those caliber of drivers go against each other and inspire those younger guys to do the same. It kind of changed the culture a little bit where we go head first into competition instead of, pick and choose our way around it, which I think is what you see kind of a lot nowadays. And that's not directed at any one individual. It's just kind of a thing that I kind of notice from what I see.
Well, it's not, I don't think you're wrong. But I think that's a culture thing. That's a lack of organization thing. And we seem to be getting there where, there's a big thing happening. We don't really have to talk about organization anymore and the potential of it because we got it. Right.
Yeah.
So it is there, it is done, and it is happening. And every day as you know, being on the back end of this, Brian, things are getting real closer and closer to reality of becoming a nationally recognized motorsport. I mean, there's
They're
so many pieces going into play behind the scenes.
yeah,
Uh,
they're things are getting really serious really quickly, and it's almost kind of to the point where it's like every day something, you call me or text me like, hey, we got this going on, we got that going on. I'm like, really? Like how is this happening so quickly? But the sport deserves it. And I think that's the biggest message that I would send to anybody is it's not about just an organization or the people in it. It's about the sport. The sport deserves it. And, we don't need to go down that road tonight, but, I'm excited. I'm excited for Demolition Derby in general.
Serendipity. I told you that word serendipity. That's how it happens. It says that the definition of that is the occurrence or development of events by chance in a happy or beneficial way.
Mm-hmm.
And if you work hard enough and enough good people get going in the right direction, it's going to happen. And it's going to happen. It's going to have positivity, breeds positivity, action. Sometimes don't confuse movement for action, but actual action.
Movement for progress.
Don't consider movement for progress, but there is a progression happening now, and every day. Sometimes we don't get to talk about it enough, and we haven't been on here enough because, as you know, being behind the scenes, Brian, it just takes time to get things done. A lot of times in these conversations, we're not on our time clock; we're on other people's time clocks, and so therefore the conversation can only go so quick. But the last thing you want to do is get into like being a Pinocchio guy. When they're done, you hear about them, and it takes a long time to get things done. So, there will be several big things coming.
There certainly will.
And they're going to keep coming.
Yeah. That first domino or those dominoes will start to fall collectively, and it'll be coming pretty quickly. Here in the hopefully the near future, we can start announcing some of that stuff. But I'm excited at the prospect of it, just even being there. And I think if people knew what was going on, I think they'd be pretty excited too.
Yeah, so we have to touch on that just a little bit here before we wrap up the end of the episode. The Bristol stuff, the entries are open. One thing that we do want to mention is that we have limited infield seats and the VIP seats and at Bristol, and they're almost sold out. So if you guys want those VIP seats, there's very limited VIP seats that are going to be around the track, and we're about to make that announcement here soon. But you don't want to get left out of that because there's just limited amount of seats that we're going to bring in to put around that track, and those things are pretty much gone.
They're close.
Those things have been hot topic. On the classes, we've got several classes that are close to selling out. So we're real excited on that too. And keeping things moving on that side of things and getting more information out. Somehow people still are unaware that registration is open or that we even have other classes. And that's kind of a disappointment, I think, just because sometimes people hear one thing, and when people said, this was exclusive or this, that, they didn't wait for information. So now we're having to re-educate everybody on what this is, but we're willing to do it.
Yeah. Like you said, registration's open. It's the third final registration period. So any membership level will suffice for the drivers, whatever fits you. Tickets are on sale. Tell your friends, come get it. There's those get that price break that's going on right now. Make those plans. It's going to be a great time. We're going to release camping pricing and information pretty soon. We have those those deals made with the Bristol folks, and hopefully we can get some hotel information out there to people as well here pretty soon as well. But there's some legwork yet to do there. So once we get that going, we'll let everybody know.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, the membership stuff, you get discounts with that. You save $75 on camping. We know that. That if
you'll pay yourself back. You will pay yourself back with it's hard to quantify that when you don't see what the discount rates are and stuff like that. But if you're hung up on that, if you're hung up on a $70 membership, I promise you'll pay yourself back in a weekend easily with that discount.
Yeah, absolutely. We want to make sure we get to the comments. So as we're talking here, comments are rolling in. We can't get to everybody. So if you guys got something that we missed, type it back in and we'll cover it towards the end of this. Or if you got any questions on anything from, King of Ohio to Bristol to demo, what is demo and how do you get in? How do you see the event? All that stuff. We'll answer anything. That brings me to King of Ohio stuff. Today I mentioned that so several of the hotels that we've worked with in the past that have never sold out are now sold out. So we did add another hotel that you can get a discount on if you're a member. So just remember, you're going to have to show your ID card, and the first ID cards are going to be going out in like a week and a half. So the first membership tier packages, the membership cards are going to be in like a week. So probably a week and a half, you guys will get all your stuff. And as you see behind me, we got the stickers and everything ready to roll. So
T-shirts, stickers, patches, all that stuff's there.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, I'll get one right here. So here's what the membership T-shirts look like. That's the back.
Yeah. Michael, yes, there are still spots open for elite compact teams. Yes, there are.
We got our patch stuff. I should have had this already, but this is a pretty cool thing right here. As the sport progresses, one of the things that you're gonna see more and more is safety. Safety is going to be something that people preach a lot, and we've been beating that drum because we want to be at the forefront of it. We don't want people to get hurt. Over the weekend, there was a couple fires in cars. Every derby, there's a couple fires in cars, and a fire jacket or a fire suit is going to be of utmost importance. Dusty, we have street stock. We have basically compact and rear wheel drive street stock.
And the minivans too.
Yeah, and minivans. So street stocks and all kinds of different versions. But those patches right there, those patches are going to go on your can be sewn on your fire jacket, which is a mandatory thing at Bristol, by the way. It's not. That is something that they definitely weren't going to play.
That is a Bristol rule. That is safety. So, and we respect that. So that's not a problem for us. But just so people know, this isn't going to be the typical event where you can run in your T-shirt or your cutoff. You're going to have a fire suit on, a fire jacket at least. We don't want anybody getting burned up.
No.
People say, well, it costs this, it costs that. I don't know. My skin is worth more than that. So I don't know about anybody else, but.
Yeah. So, and look, we've got a relationship with K1 Race Gear. So K1 Race Gear, if you guys don't know, they are the official fire suit of Kyle Larson and several other NASCAR caliber drivers and dirt track guys and whatnot. So we will actually be putting that information out with K1 Race Gear, in which you can get a fire jacket for I think you can get a cheap one for $120. And that's one of those things that you may overlook, but if the moment ever hits you, you'll be very appreciative.
Everybody says it'll never happen to me until it happens to them, and then we discover we're not invincible. So
yeah, absolutely. The next thing We got coolie cups. We got stickers. So here's your sticker pack that you guys are going to get, which is a pretty cool deal. Demo member and whatnot. We try to replicate this off of what other memberships do, with different organizations and provide like the same value and the same benefit. And one of the neat things that they do, other organizations is provide sticker patch or sticker packs, the fire suit patch. We got coolie cups. So we got some demo coolie cups. I don't
Okay.
think any of these guys in here drink any adult beverages, but if they ever do,
It'll fit around a Mountain Dew can too,
yeah, it'll fit around a Mountain Dew can too. So
or whatever your flavor is.
or a garage beer.
Hey, garage beer,
Hey, maybe that's a thing here soon. An
maybe.
actual garage beer. Everybody can drink garage beers. People are looking at us like, what the hell are they
What the
talking
heck are
about?
you talking about?
Yeah.
No.
Maybe here soon we'll talk a little bit more about that and elaborate on that.
Mm-hmm.
I guess we'll wrap this thing up. We're getting into about an hour mark. Again, we just want to get on here. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you guys got any more questions, we'll stay on if the questions come in.
And real quick, I just wanted to mention that the Derby family lost a driver today, Brett Relier. So if you haven't seen that or reached out, just please do that for his family. It's just a real sad deal there. So our thoughts and prayers are certainly with his family.
Yeah, thanks for covering that. That's pretty sad news, and sometimes you don't really know what to say. So
I'm not gonna. There's nothing more to say, at least for my part, but just very sad.
Yeah. Here's a question. Yeah, long sleeves is recommended. We don't necessarily have any rules in place at King of Ohio of what you actually have to wear. I can tell you that we may implement some things like that. I don't think us asking you to wear long sleeves is too much to ask. At King of Ohio, I think more than anything, we want to make you guys aware and understand that the risk, that is involved in running these cars, and that we're not overlooking that, and because we've been in 100 cars and never had any problems, doesn't mean that the 101st that we're not going to have a problem. So, we just want to make you aware that, guys, this is dangerous. There is some danger involved. We are crashing into cars with high horsepower motors, and there's fires and all those things.
Ultimately, it's just another barrier around your skin. You may say to yourself, it's not doing anything anyway. Well, it is, because it's a barrier. It's one more thing that hot liquid, that fire, that metal's got to go through. It may help, may not, but it may. And if it does, that's great. Mission accomplished.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right. Well, episode 36 of the War Room, we'll wrap it up. And guys, we're in full King of Ohio mode. So next month and a half is going to be a lot of fun. And we're going to be putting classes out. We've got several classes sold out, several classes that are close to selling out. We are double the cars of last year. So if you guys were at it, the last year's event, best event that we've had so far, biggest car count, everything was bigger and better, and it's double of what it was last year. So
what classes do you still have some spots in, though?
We still have spots in minivans. We still have spots in the youth. We have some spots in the King and some spots in the Legend class. The trucks, the rear wheel drive stock, and the front wheel drive stock is sold out. So we do have some spots in those other classes, though.
Caddy tucks at King.
Jason, he's just trying to stir stuff up. Jason, we have to go by the rules, man. The rules say the quarter panel has to be a certain height, so you can't have a full caddy tuck. Now, look, there's ways that you could do it without doing that, and I don't think you need to take all of that I don't think you need to take all of that quarter panel out to get that caddy to do what you want, but rules are the rules. You got to go by the rules.
Schumann wants in the 8,300 pound class. Come build a truck. Come build a truck, Brian. We can make that happen real quick.
Unfortunately, Brian, we don't weigh the cars here, so I know what he's alluding to. But yeah, I'm glad to see Dials on here, though. Gosh dang. And I'm glad to see that demo logo. Look at that. Thing's looking sharp. Dials is going to be in the house come King of Ohio. There's some guys traveling in, man. You know,
Yeah.
I'll have to look at the King list, but I'm almost positive we have more drivers from outside of Ohio than inside of Ohio. I'm almost certain. I could say that with confidence. So, you know, that is a awesome feat, I think, because people are coming from outside of Ohio to come in, and the show means something, you know, to take that crown. So now I don't think JT's gonna to let it go easy.
No.
I think he's gonna defend the crown, but you know, I'm excited to see all these guys coming in from the outside.
Yeah, it's great. I know we have plans for the show into the future, and we want those people. It's not just for people in Ohio or just drivers in Ohio. This is for anybody. Come on in, and if you haven't signed up yet and you want to build a car for this class or any of the classes that have available openings, please do. $50,000 potentially on the line here, and then that King class. I think Legends class is what, 12,000? Am I saying, is that right?
At 60 cars, yeah. So at 60 cars, it's advertised that it'll pay 12 grand. Right. We're not quite at 60, so it's not, just like the 50,000 for the King class isn't quite at 60 cars yet. It's close, and that King class is going to be for the third straight year. It'll be the highest paying individual show in the country. Yeah, and it's paying well over what last year did at 26,500. 26,500 last year, and it's paying well over that. I was hoping that we would creep in on that 60 mark, and I still think that we're going to get close, like pretty close. But it's going to pay a lot of money, man, a freaking lot of money.
I know Derby drivers like money.
Yeah, absolutely. Dean says we put out a list of entries. Yeah, we're gonna put out those lists. We always put out the list. How can you know if you're gonna buy a ticket or not if you don't see who's performing? So yeah,
we'll do it. We'll do it really soon. There's some other information we got to get out first, but those will come out and you can see who's playing, and come on over. A lot of taxes too.
Yeah, well,
the fat government, man, that's his problem, not ours. So that's kind of how that goes, regardless of where you win. But
yeah, you have to take that up with the old government. Let me know how that goes.
Give Biden a phone call and let us know how that goes.
Yeah, but it's still you'll be paying more in taxes on that money than you can win at almost any show in the country. Think about that. You'll pay more taxes on the money that you're going to win at King of Ohio in the King class than you are going to win in other shows. Total.
Yeah.
Now that's insane.
Yeah, that's great. That's what I don't know what else you can offer.
The most money out there. So, all right, guys, thanks for tuning in. We're out of here.
All right. See you guys later.